All right, we are live. Welcome to the College Baseball Smack first ever podcast. We don't have a name for it yet, but we are here ready to reveal the preseason rankings. So I'm ready to begin. Chris, you ready?
As ready as I'm going to be. We've talked about doing this for since about the middle of December, and
Yeah.
just getting everybody's timing down and who's available when and what. Sometimes you just got to go with it, and whoever can join can join.
Absolutely. And I think as the season goes on, we'll probably be able to get our schedules more in sync and all that. And it seems like we do every year with our graphics and all that good stuff. And luckily, my job now, I'm not as locked up in the evenings as usual. The other day, we just happened to be shorthanded, so I had to fill in. But here on out, we should be good to go. And I mean, outside of my daughter's softball, I think, yeah, we'll be able to be full time with this and have some fun.
So we'll give some explanation of what we're trying to do here. For years, we've talked about branching out beyond Facebook. A couple years ago, Cody created a Twitter account for College Baseball Smack. I've pretty much been the one that's been on there, but having 3 different Twitter accounts, it kind of gets hectic trying to run all 3 and do something on all 3, and sometimes it's the one that gets left behind.
Yes.
So if somebody is Twitter active and wants to run a Twitter account specifically for college baseball, shoot us a message and we'll talk to you.
Absolutely.
Beyond that, there is so much knowledge in the admin team here. We thought we had something special that we could offer from the fans for the fans and talk about college baseball from a fan's point of view.
Yep.
And here we are. So
Yeah.
we'll give it a go and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I really like everybody in the admin team. I can say that over the years, it's like everybody's knowledge has gotten more and more, and like I have to study more just to even keep up with everybody. And I love it.
So for our top 25, you've seen us do this year in and year out. What we do, each admin that wants to participate sends in their own personal top 25. And then we have a weighted system where a first place vote gets 25 points. On down to number 25 gets 1 point. And then we combine all the rankings, score them all. Whoever gets the most points ends up being our number 1 team. And we follow that all the way down through 25. And we also have a group of honorable mentions. So it gets pretty fun sometimes digging through that, because we all have different opinions on who goes where and does what. So it's really fun. Something we look forward to every year. We're a little bit late getting it out this year because we're all we're all family men, we're all working men, we're all busy. So it's just taking us a little bit to get it going this year. Football or baseball is a week away, and it's time to reveal our top 25, and we're just going to have some fun with it. If you want to comment on the video, and we may even share your thoughts on our screen. So feel free to jump in and talk with us.
Absolutely. So I guess the first thing we can say is our number 25 team in the nation is more than one team. And I will say, after looking at other websites' rankings, they do not agree with us on number 25.
Right.
So I guess we can start out by saying North Carolina State Wolfpack is one of the 25th team, along with Virginia. And then your reigning, defending national champions, the Ole Miss Rebels. And that one sparked some controversy because a lot of people see them as a top 10 team, but me personally do not see them near the rankings at the end of the year.
Probably not. It's going to be interesting. Like you said, there's 3 teams tied with that 25th place. Lots of debate on who that's going to be. I don't particularly think that they're going to be there at the end, but we shall see.
Yeah, I mean, I think, honestly, I think Virginia and North Carolina State do have a good shot at boosting themselves up. And I'm not going to necessarily trash Ole Miss. I know they lost a lot of talent from that team last year, and a lot of the leadership. Now, Bianco is a great coach. I'm never gonna doubt the man, but I don't know. That team last year wasn't the greatest until the end. Maybe he can pull a miracle out this year, but I just don't see it.
The one thing that they do have going for them is the return of Jacob Gonzalez.
Yes.
That guy is an absolute stud, and he can be a difference maker for that team.
Oh, absolutely. He is going to have to be the leader and get them going fast, and I don't see why not.
As long as you got a guy like that to build around, you could possibly get there at the end.
Absolutely, absolutely. He just has to stay healthy, and we'll see where it goes.
Right.
I guess moving on from that, number 24, the Oregon Ducks. 23, the Oregon State Beavers. 22, UCSB Gauchos. Number 21, Oklahoma State Cowboys. And number 20, East Carolina Pirates. Do you see any of those teams being able to break out and entering the top 10 at some point this year?
Possibly ECU. I mean, given the environment that they have in their own house, they can get in there and make a lot of noise.
Absolutely.
Would not be surprised at all if they are hosting a regional as a top 16 seed.
Sure.
Whether they get into the top 8 or not, that's another story. But they're always a solid program that gets in there and makes noise.
Sure. Absolutely. I fully agree. I think Cal Santa Barbara, I think they always have really good pitching. And I have not personally looked too deep into their roster this year. I mean, I know I've seen that a lot of hype behind a bunch of returners, but that's something I have to pay attention to as the season gets going because not enough research on my end on that one, unfortunately. But of those teams, I will say I know that, and maybe this is because we know Oregon State fans, but there's been a lot of hype behind Oregon State from a lot of these fans, and I don't have any room to argue it because, I mean, obviously Oregon State's been one of the most consistent programs of the last decade, and I mean, hey, anything can happen.
Didn't they have a bunch of freshman pitchers last year
They did.
that were just absolutely crazy good?
Yes, they did.
I think people are kind of sleeping on them a little. I think they're going to be a solid program this year.
Oh, they should. Absolutely. Moving on, getting to the top 15, we'll go number 19, the Maryland Terrapins, who have a very solid team coming this year that very well could be a regional host at the end of the year. I mean, I hear really good things coming out of that program. 18 is Texas, 17 Florida State, 16 North Carolina, and number 15 Southern Miss, who is one of the scrappiest teams I have ever seen. I mean, I hated playing them last year.
And Texas got some bad news today. They lost one of their stud relievers. It's out for the season with an injury.
Oh man,
wasn't disclosed what the injury is, but we can all pretty well guess typically what that means.
Yeah, Uncle Tommy coming to town again, unfortunately. That's a shame. It was Arkansas recently that had a pitcher went down as well, right?
Jackson Wiggins.
Yeah, and that's
rough.
He was their Friday guy, wasn't he?
He was their Friday guy.
Oh my gosh, that's I feel terrible for them because I know they were very hyped coming into the season. Honestly, had a very good shot at going back to Omaha. I mean, they still do, but losing a player of that caliber, that really, really sets them back.
Yep.
All right, number 14, Miami Hurricanes. 13, Texas Tech Red Raiders. Number 12, the Virginia Tech Hokies, who we gave them all kinds of nicknames in our rankings coming up with these. Number 11, TCU Horned Frogs. And number 10, the UCLA Bruins. UCLA, they gifted LSU Thatcher Hurd, thankfully, and we are definitely appreciative of that. But they still have tons of talent in their pitching staff as well as offensively, even though they've never really been a big offensive team. They've always really been a small ball kind of team, but I really think UCLA has a chance to not only go to Omaha, but maybe even wreak some havoc in Omaha if they can get past Stanford. It is.
So we haven't got to Vanderbilt yet, but I would not want to face the schedule that they're facing to begin the year because they're going out to Arlington. They get TCU, Oklahoma State, and Texas.
Oh my
all
God.
On opening weekend. And second weekend of the season, we're hosting UCLA. So
I didn't even
we have
realize that.
we
Oh
have
my
got
God.
a brutal start to the season.
Yes, but hey, that's where you can find out, where you need to improve for the year as it goes on.
So opening weekend, I'm glad we're going out and facing that kind of competition
Absolutely.
and following it up with UCLA. The thing about UCLA is they've had arms for days for years,
Yes, they have.
but they've never really put it together except
Mm-mm.
for the one season that they knocked off South Carolina.
Yep.
Can they finally put it all together this year? We'll wait and see.
Yep. I'm very excited about it. Well, honestly, who am I kidding? I'm just excited baseball's going to be back this time next week. It's
Right.
so nice. All right, number 9 team in the nation, the team that me personally I cannot get behind, but a lot of people say they are a top 3, top 4 team, the Florida Gators. And I know you're also like me, you're not the biggest on Florida ever, but what do you think about Kevin O'Sullivan and his team this year?
Um, I'm not seeing what everybody else sees.
Yeah,
I know they got the transfer from Southern Miss,
yeah, and he's
but
very talented.
beyond that, they got one stick in Wyatt Langford. I'm just not seeing what everybody else sees.
Yeah,
It's not a loaded roster that everybody says it is, in my opinion.
absolutely. And I fully agree. I think they are a good team, but I think it's going to take a little bit longer for it to come together than what people are predicting right now.
No,
Um,
I fully agree.
and then we go to number 8, Texas A&M. I don't know anything about Texas A&M except if I go off of last season, they are the most pieced together, scrappiest bunch in the country, and they know how to put it together.
They just I'm not sure what to think of that team this year.
Sure.
They were built on transfers last year. We got another SEC team this year that didn't quite make it into the rankings at Mississippi State. That they've gone out and they've done the same thing. Will Mississippi State have that type of success this year? It's wait to be seen. But Texas A&M did lose some guys in the offseason to the draft or graduation, whatever. I haven't really looked that deep into why they're not there, but there's a lot of pieces that are gone from that team.
Sure.
But the arms are back, and that's as long as you got arms, you give yourself a chance.
Absolutely. There's no question in that there. We go to number 7. We stay in the SEC with the Arkansas Razorbacks, who we've already kind of talked about, but I could definitely see Arkansas being a force to be reckoned with this year, but the only problem is it's Arkansas. And we both know how they do when the pressure's on.
And with Arkansas, you're replacing your entire middle infield.
Absolutely.
And that's no easy task, no matter who you are. You can have the arms for days, but if you're out there scooping the ball around, throwing it around like the Bad News Bears, whatever, it leaves a lot to be desired, in my opinion. I still think they're a top 10 team based on what their pitching depth is, but I'm not sure if they can get there unless that middle infield is a lot better than what we think it's going to be.
Sure. Absolutely. I'm going to hand the reins over to you for the number 6 team in the nation.
Well, I appreciate that. Number 6 this year is the Vanderbilt Commodores. We made our 16th straight regional last year.
That's amazing.
We did lose 11 guys in the portal, but we brought in 13 new guys. So our numbers aren't bad.
Yeah, sure.
We're getting back 2 pitchers that have been out. Sam Leboki was out last year with he missed about a year and a half after having Tommy John surgery. And then Michael Doolin, who was doing some really nice things in midweek games his freshman year, tore his UCL, had to have surgery. The rehab didn't go well. He had to have a second surgery, so he was out again last year. So it's a fresh arm that we don't know what we're getting out of him.
Yeah.
But he did do nice things in the past. We got Carter Holton back. He'll be our Friday night guy. A lot of people don't realize the last 5 games he pitched last year, he gave up 2 runs in 5 games. And that was against teams like Texas A&M and Arkansas and Oregon State. some of the biggest offensive teams in the country last year. So that's a pretty good thing to build on right
Absolutely. Absolutely.
there. The problem is where the bat's going to come from.
True.
You got to have somebody to put the runs on the board. EBJ did start showing some power last year, but you can't really count on part-time power to get you across the board.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, the good thing about him, though, is even with a bunt, he'll end up on third either way. So
It's an automatic triple on a bump for him.
absolutely. I mean, that kid is ridiculous. And he really got snubbed in the preseason on the All-American boards. I don't understand that at all.
I'm not sure where all that hate's coming from.
I mean, he's clearly one of the top athletes in the entire country. I mean, he's definitely the quickest, but I mean, his running is just honestly it's beautiful to watch.
And plays great defense in center field.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure what the knock is that he didn't make some of these All-American teams, but he was freshman All-American. He was second team All-American last year, and he's not even getting a sniff this year.
Yeah, and I do not understand that at all. I mean, his numbers were fantastic last 2 seasons. I mean, he's clearly a first-round draft pick. I mean, I have no idea.
Right.
I don't see any issue coming out of him this season either. I think he's going to have a break. Well, I would say breakout, but he's already broke out every year he's played. But I think I would not be, and this is a stretch coming from a non-Vanderbilt fan, but I would not be surprised to see him hit 50 stolen bases this year, to be perfectly honest.
Well, he did hit 51 his freshman year.
Exactly. So I think, I mean, honestly, he may even go higher than that. But I mean, because he had what, just under 40 last year?
46 for 46 last year and 51 for 51 as a freshman.
That's got to be some kind of record or very close to it.
You would think it is, but if I remember my research right, I think he's in the top 10 for consecutive stolen bases, but I don't think he's near the number 1 spot yet.
That blows my mind. That really does. But, I mean, I guess if you think about some of the past players that have come through, I mean, there were some pretty good base runners. All right. So my question for you would be, what is your ceiling of expectations for Vandy this year?
For me personally, my ceiling is Omaha.
Okay.
They have the tools to get there if they can get the bats going.
I got you.
Whether it's power ball, jacking home runs every night, or if it's playing small ball, they've got to get the offense cranked up. We're seeing some guys in the scrimmages show some power. R.J. Streck is one. Calvin Hewitt's one. Jonathan Vastine is one. But for me, it looks more like a team that's going to play small ball.
I got you.
And we all know what wins in Omaha, and that's small ball.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I see Vanderbilt going to Omaha myself. Actually, I do think they're going to win the East this year, which wouldn't surprise me. I mean, really, if you look at it, I mean, I just don't. I mean, well, I'm not high on Florida, so I can't put Florida ahead of them. I know Georgia's always a pretty solid team that really I haven't heard much talk about them, but they've been very strong the last 5-7 years. And then you have South Carolina, who is up, down, up, down, up, down. They can't get it together. And maybe this is a year for them to finally hit that stride, but I just don't see anyone topping Vanderbilt in the East this year. I don't know how many wins they'll get. I don't think they'll top their legendary season they had a few years ago, but I do see them definitely winning the East this year.
Me personally, I can't see them winning the East, but that's going to take another team taking a step backwards. We will see how that goes.
I got you. All right. Well, going to number 5, we have the Wake Forest Demon Deacons representing the ACC. And it's weird saying Wake Forest in the top 5.
I agree.
I mean, if I saw like North Carolina's logo, someone like that, sure. But Wake Forest, that one. But I mean, when you look at their roster, the top to bottom, I mean, they're very stout. Now, if they're going to put it together this year and really pull through, then they might be really hard to stop at the end of the year.
This is the third year in a row I've heard guys like D1 Baseball talking about the arms that Wake Forest has. They haven't quite put it together yet, but is this the year? It seems like it's an older roster than it has been in the past.
Sure.
And if there's anything that we've learned the last 2 years is the older rosters tend to have a little bit more success.
Sure, absolutely. And then going on to number 4, their counterpart, the Louisville Cardinals. That it's a team I've heard a lot of hype about coming into this year. They're always known for good arms. They always have a pretty decent offense. I personally, like I said, I'm very underprepared for this conversation today, but I've heard good things about it.
As long as they don't have any guys like Luke Smith on their roster that want to start barking and then end up losing the game for them.
Absolutely. God, I'll never forget that. That was crazy. So now we go to number 3, the team that, if I'm not mistaken, I believe you had as your number 1 preseason team, the Stanford Cardinal.
I did have Stanford. That roster is loaded top to bottom with major league talent.
Absolutely.
For me personally, being that they were in Omaha last year, with the guys that they have coming back, they may have the best outfield. Well, I'm not going to take away from Dylan Cruz. They may have either the first or second best outfielder in all of college baseball. Their pitching is legit.
Mm-hmm.
And they're that team this year that I think is loaded to win it. There's another one that's been built to win it, but they have to put the pieces together first.
Absolutely.
Stanford's already got those pieces in place that have been together for a couple of years. That I think this is the year that they take it.
Hey, that's not a bad projection. I have no argument on that, to be perfectly honest with you. We go to the number 2 team. We have the Tennessee Volunteers, who they were the most hated yet most loved team of the SEC last year with all the talent they had. They were a very wild bunch, but they were able to put it together and put together one of the best regular seasons we've seen in the last 10 years for sure. And I mean, outside of what Oregon State's special run a few seasons ago, I mean, that was a fantastic season. But as we saw, what you do in the postseason is what matters, and it didn't work out too hot for them.
So on number 2, with it being the Tennessee Volunteers, we know that they have I'm just going to say it, they have the deepest pitching staff in America. Dolander, Beam, those guys up there got arms for days. The question mark for them is same thing with Vanderbilt. Where are the bats going to come from? We've seen some guys do some things in backup roles that once they get onto that field and play daily, will they be able to keep doing those things as an everyday player? Sometimes that doesn't work out quite right.
Sure.
So it's a wait and see mode for me on them. But I definitely think they have a roster that can get to Omaha and make a deep run there.
Sure, absolutely, fully agree. I am excited to see what they put together coming into the season. Going to number 1, we have my LSU Tigers. So proud to say it, but I also hate that we are preseason number 1 because it doesn't always work out too hot in the end for that team.
Should we talk about the curse of the number 1?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, have we had a number 1 that started at the beginning and actually finished at number 1?
Ole Miss did last year.
Were they number 1 preseason? I didn't realize that.
I think they were preseason number 1 in just about every poll.
Oh wow, I did not remember that. Well then,
but they weren't the number 1 seed going into the tournament. As everybody remembers, they were the last team in.
And so many people said they shouldn't have been in.
But they were number 1 for a reason last year, just like LSU's number 1 for a reason this year.
Sure. And LSU, they have a lot of talent coming in. We have, honestly, the player that you introduced me to last year, well, probably before last season, but Paul Skeens, who is probably the best two-way player you could ask for. And when he committed to LSU, I probably did 3 backflips in my head, but I couldn't do them in real life. We have him coming in, who I am extremely excited to see. They say he was already hitting up to 100 in November, and the fact he's doing that in cold weather, that's unheard of. I think what they're trying to do is let him pitch Fridays and hit on Sundays. I think they'll give him Saturdays off, and then I guess he would probably go midweek. I think they're really trying to get him developed for his professional run and going to kind of try to take care of that arm. But then you have Thatcher Hurd coming in from UCLA, who is a guy that did very well at UCLA last year as a freshman, but he had that back injury that really sidelined him. But everything coming out of Baton Rouge is saying that he is looking great. His back is good, and he seems like he's ready to go. And then you have a special guy from Vanderbilt, Mr. Christian Little, coming in, who I don't really have much of an opinion on the kid yet. I know about his stuff that went down at Vanderbilt, and I guess we'll have to see what comes together with that. Obviously, you know more about the situation with him than I do. I just know that we have a pretty decent arm coming in.
The kid has got great stuff. He's got to stay out of his head.
Mm-hmm.
And he does have a lot of people in his ears on the side. And if Jay Johnson can do a good job of keeping those guys out of his head, he's going to do fine. But he's also got to take things a little bit more serious.
Sure.
One example is South Carolina last year. He got left off the travel roster because he had to stay home and take care of his classwork because he wasn't doing his job in the classroom. And it's a total package. He ended up getting passed up by 4 different freshmen as a reliever. But I hear he's doing some chirping down there.
Yeah, and his interviews, like, he wouldn't say anything to the media, but it was one of those things that was kind of weird to me. It's like you could see that he was like kind of throwing shade without throwing shade. And I wish the best for him during his time in Baton Rouge, but if he lets small things like that affect him, he's not even going to see the mountain hardly at all. But I think he should be okay. But another player that I'm very excited about is Tommy Tanks coming in. I think that he'll finally get a chance to show his defensive skills out. I've heard that he's been doing very well at third base, and he's locked the position down. But I mean, I guess time will tell how long that lasts, or if he's actually as good as advertised.
Yeah, and that's one thing. When he was at North Carolina State last year and smashing home runs every day, he wasn't playing defensively every day.
Yes.
And once you get on that field and play every day, and your focus can't be solely on hitting, does that take away from his power numbers? Is he able to do some of the same things or not?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be very, very interesting to see how that develops.
I'm actually very curious about that myself. I know that you have a guy like, we'll say Dylan Cruz, who has definitely been good both ways. Obviously, he never had to sit out. He was never just a DH, and he's able to put it together. I'm hoping that Tommy, with, I guess, really, I mean, just his background, the fact that he was at IMG and he's played a lot of big baseball up until this point. I'm hoping that kind of helps him out and gets him in a good headspace for that. And when you hear him in interviews, he seems like a very level-headed guy and doesn't seem too cocky. And I'm really excited to see how he puts it together. And I think him playing with a lot of major league caliber guys, I think that's really going to help him out as well going forward. Because, I mean, no disrespect to North Carolina State, but you're not going to have 10+ guys on that roster that are going to be in the majors eventually. And this happens to be the team at LSU that pretty much probably does.
Right. So after all this and going through the top 25, do you have any team out there that you think we haven't mentioned that can get in there and make some noise?
100% Davidson. Michael Carrico at catcher, that guy is a stud. He's preseason All-American, first-team All-American catcher. He's looked at highly, highly by major league scouts. I see that team being very good this year. They have a lot of players coming back. They hit like 308 or 306, something like that as a team last year. They returned most of their firepower. I really think Davidson can be a team that will shock a lot of people this year.
For me, I have Rutgers in there.
Okay.
A team that should have made the tournament last year. I would have had Ole Miss in there, but there were a couple others that I would not have had in there.
Sure.
But I think Rutgers deserved to be in there last year, so they have just about everybody coming back. I think that team is loaded. I think they're going to challenge for the Big Ten title, along with Maryland. Those two teams just, for me, seem to be a class above everybody else. I think
Sure.
Iowa is another team that can get in there and make some noise.
Absolutely. That's who I'm looking forward to LSU playing here pretty soon. I want to see what those arms are all about. You know, we see it in our group chat, you know, the hype behind their arms. So I'm always like, but, you know, unfortunately, at least down here, I don't get access to their games. I really don't. I try to find them, but I just can never find them online to watch. So I really want to see those arms in action. I am personally not going to spend $30 to stream those games. They're just, I can't do it. I may try to find a special stream somewhere to watch them, but I'm not spending $30 to watch a few just games.
Right.
So,
any tournaments or head-to-head matchups you're looking forward to?
Yes, there are a few head-to-heads I'm looking forward to. Obviously, now that you've brought up, what is it, the Shriners in Houston?
Yeah,
I definitely want to.
Yeah,
I want to
that's a
see
good
that
one.
more than anything. I definitely want to see Vandy UCLA. That's just unheard of. And then I mean you have your your basic regular season matchups that are gonna be happening, like LSU Tennessee is gonna be fun to watch. Who else do we got coming up? Well, honestly, Tennessee Vanderbilt's always one of my favorites to watch every year. I don't know. I like to see. I just like the chirping, I guess, between the fans. It's just fun
Right.
to watch. It really is. I mean, really, I don't know why. I mean, obviously, I'm not a Vanderbilt fan, but I love to watch Vanderbilt baseball, and I think it's more because I feel like they're the closest to like a professional team in college in terms of like how they're presented. And I like to see teams go in there and honestly just get shown up most of the time.
I'm looking forward to the tournament in Minneapolis that
Yes.
Minnesota's hosting. Got Vanderbilt going up there. They get Maryland on Friday night, Nebraska on Saturday, Minnesota on Sunday. And one of our admins, Bubba, big Minnesota fan up there, me and him have talked about it for years. Wouldn't it be something if Vanderbilt and Minnesota would schedule each other? And now they do. And due to some personal things in the month of January, I don't get to go. I'm so disappointed.
Dang. That'd be a fun trip to take too. It really would be.
Just to go up there for a weekend and hang out in Minneapolis, and I've never been up there, so
I haven't either, actually.
I think that would be a fun trip to go to.
It'd be a very cold trip, but it'd be a fun one.
I mean, I was born in Iowa, so
yeah, you're used to it. And plus, being in Tennessee, it ain't like it's hot there either. So
right.
Now, me on the other hand, it's like I'm at the beach. I never see snow, and it's unfortunate. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the start of the season this coming weekend. So if you had to pick your who's your final four? If you had to pick four teams to come down to.
The four teams I think it's going to come down to Stanford, LSU, Tennessee, and depending on how the bullpen plays out and how the infield plays out at Arkansas, I would not be surprised to see them in there.
I got you. I like it. For me, I'm gonna go LSU and Stanford. I think that's my two guarantees. And then outside of that, I'm gonna kind of go a little off kilter here, and I'm gonna actually take I'm gonna go TCU and Southern Miss, and that's only because of the scrappiness out of those teams. That's the only reason I'm picking those two.
Okay,
so
I can see it. Southern Miss is the team that LSU don't want to play this year, right?
Absolutely, I don't want anything to do with them. I don't want to see them. Nothing.
Do you want Notre Dame to come down there?
Oh, I would love that. Absolutely. I absolutely love playing Notre Dame in baseball. I really do. We played them I want to say it was like 4 seasons ago, and their fan base was super classy, and I had nothing negative to say about them.
And speaking of Notre Dame, do you think Lincoln Jarrett is going to have any success at Florida State?
I do. I really do. I think what he did at Notre Dame was fantastic. I think now that he's got a better platform in terms of recruiting and honestly, it's just a good environment down there. I think he's going to thrive. I really do. Now, honestly, the one thing I don't know about him though is I don't know how good of a recruiter he actually is. I mean, obviously at Notre Dame you're very limited on who you can bring in. I know he's a great coach that can coach these kids up, but who he can actually draw into that program, that's going to be a challenge, especially being in the state of Florida with all those very good teams down there.
So I got to play around a little bit. We got our first comment
Oh
talking
yeah.
about the propeller on my head. Yeah, I'm not a man of great means at the moment, and I'm just new at all this podcasting stuff. So I'm kind of in my bedroom right now and got the ceiling fan. Definitely looking forward to getting like a room divider or something where I can hang my Vanderbilt gear behind me
Sure.
and do something a little bit better for my background. But it's a work in progress. It's going to get better, I promise.
Absolutely. That is funny though. I didn't. I've been staring at you for the last like 40 minutes, and I have not even noticed the ceiling fan behind you. Yeah, that's one thing that's kind of I guess we can kind of give everybody here a little preview of what we want to do here. I mean, obviously we want to do at least at least a weekly show, I would think, just kind of break down the week of baseball. I would think that, and I'm sure Chris will agree with me on this, that we want to, do our awards that we do weekly. We have a lot of awards that have been created over the years that are very fun to follow. We have our heat streaks, we have our golden broom. I mean, they're just very, very fun to keep up with. And I think that as we learn how to use StreamYard a lot better, I think that we're going to be able to put out some really cool content here. And I'm sure end of the season, we'll look back at this podcast and we'll probably just laugh.
Be like, who are those rookies?
I know, right? And hopefully coming soon, we'll be able to line up the schedule with the other guys in the admin team. And honestly, I would like to bring in some people that actually are not even part of the admin team at certain points too. Like I'd like to find some fans that are mid-major fans that would want to come and chat with us for a little bit and break down their team for us.
And definitely, let me address that one a little bit. If you are a fan of mid-majors, and I see you out there, there's a couple posting in our group. We want to talk to you. We're looking to add an admin from a mid-major program that's willing to step in here and do some of this stuff and be a part of our team. Of course, we give it a trial basis for a little bit, see how you fit, see how you mesh with the rest of us. And I may have created the group, me and Bubba created this group, but in this, I'm not a dictator. It's not what I say goes. It's what the admin team collectively decides. So if you're a fan of a mid-major, please reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you. We're looking at adding somebody. So don't be afraid. We love some mid-major stuff in this group.
Absolutely. And I can say too is I feel like I was one of the earlier people added to the admin team after the group was created because if I'm not mistaken, I think it was a post that you had made on like NCAA baseball's page or something, and I saw it and I was like, well, this is cool. So I went and I just joined the group, and because I'd always been a rogue baseball fan. I never really talked to people online about it or nothing. I would just follow it on my own. And then I joined the group, and there was just a handful of people in there. I want to say that it was maybe 30, 40 people when I joined. And then I remember when we jumped up to 1,000 and we're just like, oh my gosh. And now, I mean,
we're getting there.
yeah. And I mean, this group it's definitely evolved a lot. And I mean, we went through our phases where we were very quiet and weren't putting out a lot of stuff. And then we got to points where we're putting out probably way too much stuff. But I feel like now we're at our best that we've ever been. And everybody on the team is just easy to deal with. And I mean, there's never any drama really in our group. And when there is drama, it has nothing to do with us. So
Right.
We've definitely been part of some groups that have been some fun stuff.
So unfortunately, it's not showing. It doesn't show us who is making the comments.
I know, I hate that.
something I can play around with. I may be able to pull up Facebook in the future and actually have the video off to the side and see who's making comments. But see here, somebody's planning on catching some games at Arkansas this year. Uh, when you do that, make sure you take pictures, take some videos,
Absolutely.
share the content. Baum Walker is one of the best facilities in baseball in the college game. And we love the imagery and the fan base, the way they treat people. Ole Miss is the same, Mississippi State and Duty Noble. We love seeing these pictures. Somebody shared a
Absolutely.
picture one time of the BYU facility. Just a lovely place with the mountains in the background. Whenever you visit a place, take pictures and share them with us. We'd love to see that type of content.
Absolutely. And I actually have our podcast pulled up right now, and it is Jody Robinson that is the commenter on there. And I can it actually one cool thing I see that on here is the fact that it gives me an option to actually bring these people into the video, and that's very cool. So very cool to see. And I will say, just looking at us on our Facebook page, we look pretty damn good. If I'm not lying here.
I mean, speak for yourself. I'm 54 years old, and I'm starting to show my age a little bit.
Nah. But yeah, I think this was a very good and productive first show. Like I said earlier, we do not have really a official name for this show. That's why I just put College Baseball Smack EP1 because I really don't know what we're going to call this thing. We've kind of come up with a few names and chatted about it, and maybe we'll get a few together and let the group vote on it and see what. I mean, there's no telling what we'll do at this point, but yeah,
and don't be surprised. We talked about a few things in recent days about maybe making some changes to some of our awards. We're not going to reveal what we're talking about, but
sure,
pay attention to that. There's definitely some things going on in college baseball that deserve some recognition.
absolutely,
We got and let's go over those awards. We got the Golden Broom,
yes,
which is there's been some confusion over the years of how that's done.
yes,
We look at it from a perspective of number one, a team has to go undefeated from Monday through Sunday. That's our week. We look at it from the optics of which team that has gone undefeated had the best week. Naturally, if you're beating two top 10 teams, sweeping two top 10 teams in a week, you're going to the head of the line.
absolutely,
But along the same lines, and I'll use Boise State for a reference. They went how many years without even having a baseball team? And their first weekend back playing college baseball in 2020, they swept the entire weekend.
mm-hmm.
That's noteworthy. That's a noteworthy
Absolutely,
accomplishment. So we gave Boise State that award that week. It's not based on, oh, this is a Power Five team and they just annihilated somebody. There's other metrics that go into that, and it's not always based on who the names are. Sometimes it goes down to what is a noteworthy accomplishment.
sure,
So, you want to
absolutely.
talk about another one?
Yeah, let's do the heat streak. That's one of my favorite awards. I believe last year, who was the team? Was it Radford?
Was it Radford? No, 2 years ago it was New Jersey Tech or somebody like that.
Yeah, and they started out like what 22-0 or something like that. It was ridiculous.
Crazy.
Because what's our criteria for that? Is it 15 games in a row?
To get a heat streak, uh, is it 12 or 15 consecutive
I
games?
can't remember.
And we call it a heat streak because the team is starting to heat up and make some noise.
Mm-hmm.
But then we take it a step farther later on if they continue on that trek, and we call that the Flame Award. If
Mm-hmm.
you get to 20 straight wins, you 100% deserve a Flame Award because you are on fire.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then I like my true favorite award though is definitely the Dirty Sock. I love every week when we get to give that out to a team that is supposed to do very good, but ends up just crap in the bed.
Hey,
And yeah,
Vanderbilt has been a recipient of that dirty sock multiple
so is
times,
LSU.
and I
Absolutely.
don't mind saying that.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
so the dirty sock, if you just go out and lay an egg, let's say take Tennessee last year as an example, and they go into Kentucky and just they don't perform well. Kentucky takes 2 out of 3. Tennessee gets a dirty sock for that because they just went out and they laid an egg and didn't perform what they were supposed to perform.
Sure.
Florida State has won it. Florida has won it. We don't mind giving out dirty socks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see here. Where did that go? I had some stuff pulled up that I was looking forward to reading. Well, dang. Well, honestly, I feel like we've pretty much discussed almost everything we can. Um, did I lose you?
I'm here. I just had
Oh,
to turn the camera off for just a second.
I got you. Okay, I was like, where'd he go? All right, let me.
I had to turn the camera off for just a second. Okay,
All
I'm
right.
back for the moment.
All right, perfect. So I think the most appropriate way to end this show is I would like to, I really just from the whole collective of College Baseball Smack, send our deepest condolences to Danny Jones's family, aka Goose, a huge Vanderbilt baseball fan, who recently passed away. And Chris, do you have any words you'd like to say about him?
For anybody that's in the SEC that has been to any game that Vanderbilt has played, just about in the last 10 years, you've seen a guy standing up, waving his Vanderbilt flag, dancing in the stands. That was Goose. He traveled with the team. He's been to Omaha multiple times. He goes along. There was a South Carolina fan back in the day.
Mr. Bill Golding.
Bill Golding went by the nickname of Oot Oot.
Mm-hmm.
Oot Oot and Goose were really close back in the day. There's another fan at Vanderbilt, Preacher Franklin.
Mm-hmm.
He is one of the whistlers. Is the most laid back. Became really good friends with Goose over the years. In the past 5 years, anytime they went to away games, they would travel together in Preacher's RV. Goose battled cancer 4 different times and beat it. And this last time, it was a little bit more than he could handle. But he fought it hard. He would go to Vanderbilt on Fridays to take his chemotherapy, go to the hotel, and rest on Friday night just so he could go to the games on Saturday and Sunday. That's how dedicated he was to this. Big loss for the Vanderbilt community. Even former players, major league guys have come out and have made posts about him and talk about losing him, how big of a loss it is for Vanderbilt.
Sure, it really is, and it's a very sad situation, and he will definitely never be forgotten because I remember every time I watch you don't miss him. You cannot miss him at all in the stands. He sticks out,
Yep.
and it's gonna be sad to not see him there this year, but we'll definitely still hear the whistling going on.
just remember, there's 2 whistlers.
Absolutely.
One sits more behind home plate and is very, very loud, and he's the one that everybody complains about. Preacher, on the other hand, he's typically on the third base side, right behind the dugout, and is very much more laid back and subdued in what he does. But the players all love what Preacher does.
Oh, for sure.
They'll even come and high five him. So when you talk about the whistlers, make sure you're referencing the right one because we know that there's going to be plenty of comments on it this year.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, I will say this has been a phenomenal first episode, and I'll definitely look forward to doing it again. And hopefully we can get some of our other admins in here to join us, and we'll make this thing official and get going.
I'm waiting for Mr. Randy Jowers to
I
join us.
know. Absolutely.
That guy has so much baseball knowledge. If you're watching, you don't know who Randy is. He's the one that's with In Off the Bench podcast, where him and Jim Cross go and interview actual players. Sometimes they'll get a coach on there. They do some really great work over there In Off the
They do.
Bench. Looking forward to snagging him along and getting him in here at some time.
Absolutely. I love their podcast. I listen to it. Honestly, I listen to it every week at work because, well, I'm sitting at my desk. I get bored, so I just throw headphones in and I'll listen to their stuff for hours and hours. So, yep, definitely ready to get Randy in here. And honestly, we might have Jim on here one time too because I like hearing both of them chat. So,
if you're interested in growing the college baseball game, they are two of the best follows you can do on Twitter. Because that's their goal is they want to grow the college game just like we do here.
Sure.
We're all fans, and I don't think college baseball players or the college game get enough recognition for what it is.
Sure, absolutely agree. And so well, all right, Chris, it's been a blast. Hopefully, more than one viewer will view this in the group. But hey, I've had a fun time doing it.
I've had a good time doing it. A little bit nervous being our first one, but
sure,
it is what it is. And
absolutely,
like I said, I'll come up with something to get rid of the propeller effect if I have to move to the side or whatever. It's something I'm going to work on.
We're just start calling you Propeller Chris. It's all good.
Propeller Chris, there you go.
All right, man. Well, hey, have a good night, and I'll obviously be in touch later, and we'll figure out when we're going to do episode number 2.
All right, sounds good. All
right, man.
Looking forward to doing it.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for viewing, and you guys have a great rest of your week, and look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
All right.
All righty.